Do you know what it feels like when your heart is ripped apart? Not by strangers but by your own family? I never thought I would witness something so cruel at a family gathering, a place that's supposed to be filled with love and laughter. But that night what I saw left me broken inside. My name is Margaret. I'm 60 years old, a grandmother who has seen enough storms in life to know that family can either heal you or destroy you. And today I want to tell you a story that still burns my soul like it happened yesterday. It was a warm Saturday evening, and my son Daniel had invited the whole family over for a party at his house. Birthdays and family parties used to be my favorite moments, because that's when I could hold my little granddaughter Emily in my arms, smell the sweetness of her hair, and see her innocent smile light up the room. Emily was only 6 years old, so full of joy, love, and trust. She was my sunshine. But that evening when I stepped into the living room, my eyes froze. The room was filled with chatter, clinking glasses, and fake laughter. But all I could see was Emily. My Emily. Standing in the corner, her little hands fidgeting nervously, her eyes downcast. And her head, oh dear God, her beautiful golden hair, it was gone. Shaved clean. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe she had been sick, maybe there was some reason. My heart raced as I rushed to her, kneeling down so our eyes met. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, but she forced a weak smile, as if trying to hide her pain. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice trembling. Before I could even ask what had happened, a sharp laugh echoed from behind me. I turned and saw her, my daughter-in-law Jessica. She was holding a glass of wine, her lips curled into a mocking smile. "Oh, don't look so shocked, Margaret," she said casually. "It's just hair. I thought it would be fun. She looks different, doesn't she?" Then she burst into laughter, as if this was the funniest thing in the world. I felt my hands shaking. Fun? She thought this was fun? Shaving the head of a 6-year-old child who adored her long hair, who loved braiding it, who used to twirl in front of the mirror. I could feel Emily's little body trembling as I pulled her closer to me. Inside I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab Jessica and shake her until she understood the cruelty she had done. But instead I whispered to Emily, "You are beautiful, my darling. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise." Jessica rolled her eyes and walked away, laughing with some friends who clearly didn't know the truth of the situation. My son Daniel stood nearby, pretending not to notice, pretending not to hear. That hurt even more. I sat with Emily on the sofa, stroking her bare head, my heart aching with every touch. And as I held her close, I remembered my own childhood. You see, when I was young, I too was humiliated in front of others. My own stepmother once cut my hair off because she said I didn't deserve to look pretty. I thought those scars had healed, but watching Emily now, it felt like history had repeated itself, stabbing me in the same wound I thought had closed. I realized then, silence would only let the cruelty grow. But before I continue, let me tell you something, dear listener. If you're watching this story right now, please, make sure you don't just hear it but feel it. And if my words touch your heart, don't forget to subscribe, because I have lived a lifetime of stories that carry lessons you might need one day. Now back to that night. Emily tried to laugh with me, tried to act brave. But every time someone looked at her, I saw her little fingers clutch the hem of her dress tighter. I knew she wanted to cry. She was just too afraid of being scolded again. I couldn't let it go. After the guests left, I walked straight to Jessica. My voice shook, but it carried the weight of a grandmother's pain. "Why did you do this to her?" I asked. Jessica shrugged, sipping her wine like nothing had happened. "Because I can. Because she's just a child. Hair grows back, Margaret. Don't be so dramatic." I looked into her eyes and realized something chilling. This wasn't about hair. This was about control. About dominance. She wanted to break Emily's spirit, the same way some people break a horse, just to prove they hold the reins. And my son? My Daniel? He stood there, silent, refusing to meet my gaze. My boy, the one I raised with love, with lessons of kindness, stood there as his wife laughed at his own daughter's tears. That betrayal cut deeper than anything Jessica had done. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would not let Emily grow up believing that cruelty was normal. I would not let her think that her pain was entertainment. She was too precious, too innocent, too pure to be scarred like this. As I tucked her into bed, she whispered, "Grandma, will my hair ever grow back?" I kissed her forehead and said, "Yes, my darling. And it will grow even more beautiful than before. But remember, beauty is not in the hair, or the dress, or the face. Beauty is in your heart. And you, Emily, have the most beautiful heart I've ever known." Her eyes finally closed in peace, but mine stayed wide open the whole night. Because deep down I knew this was just the beginning. Jessica's laughter wasn't the end of the story. It was the opening of a battle I had to fight. And I was ready. You know, my dear, when you've lived 60 years, you learn to recognize the difference between a childish mistake and a deliberate cruelty. That night proved to me that Jessica's laughter wasn't a mistake. It was a weapon. And the silence of my son, Daniel, oh, that silence pierced me more than any words could have. The morning after the party, I woke up early. I always do. Old habits never die. I tiptoed to Emily's room, not wanting to wake her too suddenly. She was still asleep, curled up like a little kitten hugging her teddy bear. The sunlight fell softly on her bare head, and for a moment she looked like an angel. But angels shouldn't carry such heavy sadness in their hearts. I sat by her bed and whispered, "Good morning, my sunshine." She opened her eyes and smiled faintly, the kind of smile that tries to be brave but can't hide the truth. She rubbed her little eyes and whispered, "Grandma, do you think Mommy hates me?" My chest tightened. How could I answer that? How could I tell a 6-year-old child that her mother's heart had grown colder than winter? So I took her tiny hand in mine and said, "No, sweetheart. Mommy doesn't understand right now. But you must never let anyone's actions make you feel less loved. Because I love you more than all the stars in the sky." She nodded, though I could see the doubt in her eyes. Later that morning I joined Jessica in the kitchen. She was scrolling on her phone, sipping coffee, acting as if the world revolved around her. I wanted to stay calm, but my blood boiled with every second. "Jessica," I began, "do you realize what you did to Emily last night?" She was devastated. Jessica smirked without even looking up. "Margaret, you're too soft. Kids need to toughen up." She cried a little, "So what? She'll survive. Life isn't about coddling children." Her words struck me like knives. I leaned closer and said, "Discipline is one thing. Humiliation is another. A child remembers the wounds you carve into their heart. And Emily will remember this." She finally looked up, her eyes cold. Maybe that's exactly what she needs, to remember who's in charge. I froze. I realized then Jessica wasn't just careless. She was dangerous. When Daniel walked in, I turned to him, desperate. "Daniel, say something. She shaved your daughter's head as if she was a doll. How can you stand here and allow this?" But Daniel avoided my eyes. "Mom, please don't make a scene. Jessica knows what she's doing." I wanted to scream. She knows what she's doing? Yes, she knew exactly what she was doing. Breaking a child's spirit one cruel laugh at a time. And my son, my flesh and blood, had become too weak or too blind to stop her. That day, I decided I wouldn't waste my words on deaf ears. I would show them. I spent the afternoon with Emily. We baked cookies, painted little pictures, and I wrapped a scarf gently around her head. Not to hide her baldness, but to make her feel special, like a princess with a crown. When she looked at herself in the mirror, her eyes lit up for the first time since that night. "Do I look pretty, Grandma?" she asked shyly. I cupped her cheeks and said, "You don't just look pretty, my darling, you look powerful. Because real beauty comes from the courage to smile, even when people try to take it away." I thought those words might comfort her, but deep down I knew comfort wasn't enough. Emily needed protection. And protection sometimes comes with battles. Days turned into weeks. I began noticing more things. Small bruises on Emily's arms, the way she flinched when Jessica raised her voice, the way she ate her food too quickly, like she was afraid someone would snatch it away. My heart shattered a little more each time. One evening I found Emily sitting alone on the porch, staring at the sky. I sat beside her and asked, "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Grandma, if I make Mommy happy, will she love me again?" Tears welled in my eyes. I hugged her tightly, hiding my face so she wouldn't see me cry. "You don't have to earn love, my darling. You deserve it simply because you exist. Remember that, always." But that night as I lay in bed, anger boiled inside me. No child should beg for love from their own mother. No child should question if they're worthy of it. I decided then I would no longer remain silent. I would confront not just Jessica but Daniel too. I raised that boy. I knew he had kindness buried inside him, even if Jessica had chained it with her control. I had to wake him up before Emily's soul was crushed forever. The very next day, I gathered my courage. At dinner, while Jessica laughed with her friends and Daniel kept his eyes on his plate, I placed my fork down and spoke clearly. Enough. The table fell silent. Everyone looked at me. My hands trembled but my voice was firm. Emily is a child, not a toy. She is not your canvas for cruelty, Jessica. And Daniel, how dare you stand by while your daughter suffers? You both may think I am old and weak, but let me tell you this. I will fight with every breath in my body to protect that little girl. If you don't change, I will take her away from this toxic house myself. The room froze. Jessica's face turned red with fury, Daniel's face pale with shame. And Emily? She looked at me with wide eyes, her little lips parting as if she had just seen a miracle. For the first time she knew, someone was willing to fight for her. That moment I realized wasn't just about Emily's hair. It was about her dignity, her childhood, her future. And I would not allow anyone, not even my own son, to steal that from her. But I also knew, speaking up was only the beginning. The real storm was yet to come. Do you know what happens when you challenge cruelty in its own home? You awaken a beast. That dinner when I spoke up, I thought perhaps my words would pierce their hearts. I thought Daniel might remember the boy I raised, the boy who once cried when he saw a bird fall from its nest. But instead my words only lit the fire in Jessica's eyes. The very next morning, she came to me with her arms folded, her lips curled in that cold smirk I had grown to hate. You think you can threaten me, Margaret? She said, her voice dripping with venom. This is my house. My rules. You're just a guest here. Don't forget that. I stared right back at her. A guest I may be, but a grandmother I will always remain. And no one will stop me from protecting Emily. Her eyes narrowed. You old women are all the same. Emotional, weak, dramatic. Daniel listens to me, not you. You're nothing here. Nothing. That word echoed in my ears like a hammer striking stone. She thought I was nothing? She had no idea the storms I had survived, the losses I had endured, the strength that lived inside me. But for Emily's sake I didn't respond with anger. I simply said, you'll see. That evening I watched as Jessica scolded Emily over the smallest things. A spilled drop of juice, a toy left on the floor. Each mistake turned into a punishment. And Daniel? He sat on the sofa, eyes glued to his phone, pretending not to notice. It broke me. One night, after Jessica had gone to bed, I slipped into Daniel's study. He was sitting there in silence, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His face was tired, lined with guilt he tried to hide. Daniel, I whispered, why do you let her treat your daughter this way? Why are you silent? You were raised better than this. He rubbed his forehead, avoiding my gaze. Mom, you don't understand. Jessica, she controls everything. The money, the house, the way people see us. If I go against her, she'll ruin me. Ruin you. I snapped. What about Emily? She's 6 years old. She's the one being ruined, Daniel. Can't you see? One day she'll grow up believing she isn't worthy of love. Do you want that on your conscience? His hand trembled, but still he said nothing. I leaned closer, my voice firm. Listen to me. I may be old, but I'm not blind. If you won't protect your daughter, I will. But know this, you will lose her love, Daniel. A child never forgets who stood by and who stayed silent. I left him with those words, hoping they would echo in his mind long after I walked out. The next morning, something happened that tore my heart even deeper. Emily came running to me, her eyes wide with fear. Grandma, she whispered. Mommy said if I don't listen, she'll send me away. Is that true? I froze. Send her away? My blood ran cold. I hugged her tightly and said, no, my darling. No one will ever send you away as long as I'm here. But inside I was boiling. Jessica's cruelty had crossed every line. She wasn't just breaking Emily's spirit. She was threatening to take her away, to erase her sense of safety. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window staring at the stars, whispering prayers into the silence. I prayed for strength, for guidance, for a way to shield Emily from this storm. And in that silence a thought came to me. I had been patient. I had spoken softly. I had tried to reason. But reasoning with a heart as hard as Jessica's was like trying to melt stone with tears. If I wanted to save Emily, I needed to act. I needed to become the warrior my granddaughter believed me to be. The very next day I began my plan. I started gathering evidence, small things at first. Pictures of the bruises I noticed on Emily's arms. Recordings of Jessica's harsh words when she thought no one else was listening. Quietly, I wrote everything down. Every moment that proved Emily was living in a house where love was absent. But I didn't stop there. I also began to nurture Emily's strength. Every night I told her stories. Stories of brave girls who faced dragons, who rose again no matter how many times they were knocked down. And I reminded her, "You are like them, Emily. Strong, brave, beautiful." Sometimes she would smile, her eyes lighting up with a spark I feared had been lost. Other times she would fall asleep clutching my hand, as if holding on to me was the only way she felt safe. One afternoon, Jessica caught me braiding a scarf around Emily's head, pretending it was her hair. She sneered and said, "You're filling her head with nonsense. She needs to learn reality, not fairy tales." I looked straight at her and replied, "Fairy tales give children hope. And hope is stronger than your cruelty, Jessica. Stronger than fear. One day, Emily will rise above this, and you'll be nothing but a shadow in her memory." For the first time I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Just a flicker. But I knew I had to prepare for the worst. Because women like Jessica don't back down. They strike harder when they feel threatened. And I was right. The very next weekend at another family gathering, Jessica decided to humiliate Emily again. She called her to the center of the room, pointed at her bald head, and laughed. "Look at her. Doesn't she look funny? Poor little thing, no hair at all." The guests laughed nervously, unsure of how to respond. But Emily's little face turned crimson, her eyes filling with tears. That was the moment I stood up, slamming my cane against the floor. The sound silenced the room. My voice thundered, louder than I thought my old lungs could manage. "Enough. Shame on every one of you who laughs at a child's pain. Shame on you, Jessica, for thinking cruelty is entertainment. And Daniel?" I turned to my son, my eyes burning with tears. "Shame on you most of all for letting it happen." The room froze. No one dared to move. I walked to Emily, wrapped my arms around her and whispered, "You are safe. You are loved. And I will never let anyone break you." As I held her trembling body against mine, I knew the time for words was over. The next step would change everything. Because I wasn't just going to fight for Emily with my voice. I was going to fight with the law, with truth, with every ounce of strength left in my body. Jessica thought I was nothing. She was about to learn how wrong she was. My dear, when you reach my age, you realize battles aren't always fought with fists. Sometimes the strongest battles are fought with patience, with evidence, and with an unshakable will. And when I looked into Emily's teary eyes that night, I knew I had no choice but to fight with everything I had left. The morning after that humiliating party, I made my decision. I wasn't going to sit quietly while Jessica treated Emily like a joke. I wasn't going to let Daniel's silence crush his daughter's spirit. I packed my old leather bag, tucked away my journals filled with notes, and carried with me the photographs and recordings I had gathered. I walked into Daniel's office while he was sipping his coffee. My voice was steady though my heart was pounding. "Daniel," I said, "I'm done waiting. I've collected enough proof to show the court what kind of home Emily is growing up in. If you won't protect her, I will. I'm going to fight for custody." He nearly dropped his cup. "Mom, you can't do that. You'll destroy our family." I shook my head. "No, Daniel. Jessica already destroyed it. I'm just trying to save what's left. I won't let my granddaughter grow up believing cruelty is normal. If that means the family breaks, so be it. At least Emily will be safe." He stared at me for a long time, his eyes full of shame. But before he could answer, Jessica walked in. She had overheard everything. Her face twisted with rage. "You old witch," she spat. "You think anyone will believe you over me? This is my house, my child. You don't matter." I stood tall, meeting her glare. "Oh, Jessica, I matter more than you think. Because the truth doesn't need permission to shine. And the truth is coming for you. That night, I went to sleep with a heavy heart but a clear mind. I knew the road ahead would be long, full of courtrooms, questions, and battles. But I also knew I wasn't alone, because I carried Emily's hope with me. And then, something unexpected happened. A few days later, Daniel knocked on my door late at night. His face was pale, his eyes red, as if he hadn't slept in days. He sat down across from me, his hands shaking. "Mom," he whispered, "you were right. I've been a coward. I let Jessica control everything, and I stood by while my daughter suffered. I can't do it anymore. I want to help you." Tears filled my eyes. For a moment I saw the boy I had raised, the boy with kindness in his heart. "Daniel," I said softly, "it's never too late to be the father Emily needs. But you must be strong. Stronger than you've ever been." And he was. Together we took the evidence to a lawyer. We prepared for the storm. Jessica fought back, of course, screaming, lying, twisting every word to make me look like a bitter old woman trying to steal her granddaughter. But the truth has a way of piercing through lies. The judge listened to the recordings, saw the bruises in the photographs, read the reports from teachers who had noticed Emily's sadness. Piece by piece, Jessica's mask crumbled. I will never forget the day the judge finally said the words I had been praying for. "Custody is awarded to the grandmother and father. Jessica will have supervised visitation only." The courtroom spun around me. My knees nearly gave way. Emily clutched my hand, her little fingers squeezing mine so tightly I could feel her heartbeat. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Grandma, are we safe now?" I hugged her, sobbing. "Yes, my darling. You're safe. You're finally safe." That moment. Oh, that moment was worth every sleepless night, every tear, every ounce of fear I had carried. Because I knew Emily would grow up in a home filled with love, not cruelty. Jessica left the courtroom furious, her eyes burning with hatred. But she no longer had power over Emily. Her laughter could no longer scar my granddaughter's heart. The weeks that followed were like watching a flower bloom again. Emily's smile returned, brighter than ever. She started drawing, singing, playing with her toys without fear. And slowly, her hair began to grow back. Soft little curls at first, then longer strands. Each inch was a symbol of healing, of resilience, of a spirit that refused to be broken. One evening as I brushed her new hair, she said, "Grandma, when I grow up, I want to be strong like you." I kissed her forehead and whispered, "You already are, my darling. Stronger than you know." And Daniel, he began to change too. He apologized more times than I can count, not just to me but to Emily. He learned to listen, to protect, to love without fear. He was far from perfect, but at least he was trying. And sometimes trying is the first step toward redemption. As for me, I sit here now 60 years old with a heart full of scars and memories. I've lived long enough to know life is not measured by the years we breathe, but by the love we give, the battles we fight, and the children we protect. Emily doesn't remember every cruel word Jessica threw at her, but she will always remember one thing, that her grandmother stood up when no one else did. And that, my dear, is what I want you to take from my story. Because maybe, just maybe, someone watching this right now is facing their own Jessica. Maybe you feel powerless, too old, too small, too weak. But let me tell you this, you are never too old to fight for love. Never too weak to protect the innocent. Never too small to make a difference. I am 60 years old, and I have lived through storms you cannot imagine. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Cruelty may be loud, but love is louder. And love always wins.